What's the process like of getting signed to a record label?
I don't know if it's the same now, but at the time we were just playing around and we would do what were called showcases for the label. The label would come out and see us, and there's an A&R guy for every record label whose job it is to go out and sign new acts. And there was this guy named Cam Carpenter who worked at Universal, which was called MCA back then, and he saw us and he liked us, and it was his job to say these guys are great, you should sign them. I don't know how difficult it was for him to do it, but it seemed like it was pretty easy on our end. you know it's like, great, okay, good, we're going to do that. Also, at this time, this is like the 90s, just sort of pre-grunge, and there was a bit of a rock and roll kind of renaissance going on as trends come and go, and it was a time of bands like the Tragically Hip becoming really, really successful. And so the thing that happens is, what other Canadian bands are there? And our singer Hugh is from Kingston, where the Hip are from, so there was a connection there, and I'm sure all that helped. You
Right.
know, but essentially, it's kind of like signing a contract, a really bad contract in some cases.
Can you
So make sure you read everything.
can you elaborate on that a little?
Not really, but I mean, record contracts are sort of known not to be great, and back then they were probably really not great because they're mostly in favor of the record company and very little in favor of the artists. I feel like things have leveled out a little bit now.
Yeah, I think also the democratization of music when it comes to things like Spotify and SoundCloud and Apple Music and all that kind of stuff, probably like you have a way for people to listen to your stuff. Like from anybody in the world can listen to it,
Yeah,
which wasn't the case before.
exactly. And only really the physical medium existed, plus terrestrial radio, right? So yeah, I mean, you kind of needed them because studios are really expensive. Pressing vinyl or CDs was really expensive. Artwork, distribution, promotion, all that stuff. Like, you couldn't do it on your own. It cost too much money.
I'd actually be curious. Do you have any input on how maybe like streaming services have changed the music industry?
Aside from the ways that you've mentioned, the biggest change for me is I know about way more bands because of the bands that I listen to. You know what I
Right.
mean by that? Like, you can go into Spotify and you can pick a song, and then maybe that turns into a playlist, and then you discover this other band and then you start listening to them, and then you find out who produced them and you get into that producer. And it's really cool because it's endless, right? How far you can go. Whereas when we were signed, you might hear this band on the radio and then you would have to go and buy the record, or maybe you were at a friend's house and they had that record, and then your friend was nice enough to say, oh, if you like this band, you should check out this band or this artist. And then you would borrow the record from them because you probably wouldn't want to take the chance to go and buy it yourself. So you would borrow it, and then you like break it or lose it or scratch it. You stop being friends, and then you make up and everything's better, and you buy them the new record by that band. Anyway, I
Well,
digress.
sounds like that might have happened to you.
Maybe, but
Personal experience.
yeah, the other thing that's different is that live music was another way to find out about bands. Like, routinely, I would go and see a band, and then the opener would be awesome, and I'd never heard of them before, and then I would go and check them out. But the big difference is, like you say, yes, the democratization of music. Instead of having these individual channels that you could find new stuff from, it's everything is available to you all the time.
Do you think that that for people starting out today in the music space, do you feel like that has made it easier or harder to get noticed?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I wonder that all the time. Um, it seems like something like touring would be harder, um, because there's just so much entertainment. You're competing with people's phones. You're competing with Netflix at home. You're competing with all media basically. Um, but at the same time, the barrier to recording is almost zero now. You can record, at home essentially for free. You can make things sound good fairly easily. So yeah, I don't know. I think making music is easier, but maybe getting your music out there might be harder because there's just you're in competition with everything.